Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of SHEMAKERS Live. Thank you so much for joining us again. I am so excited. I can't believe that we have already completed 10 episodes. It's a touchdown, y'all. So we have to celebrate starting over again. It's first and goal. And tonight we have a really exciting and wonderful guest that I think you all will learn a lot from. I am Shavonna Williams, your hostess and the founder and CEO of Hills and Helmets. SHEMAKERS Live is about having conversations to help women develop their playbooks to win in business and life. I've worked in marketing and communications for more than 2 decades in business, government, politics, and 5 major sports leagues. Of course, I've been in some boardrooms where I was the only woman. My goal is to change that. I'm working to get more women in the boardroom with equal pay. Throughout my career, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of amazing women who are not only talented and killing the game, but share my mission to help you win. These women, SHEMAKERS, are joining us for conversations to help you develop your winning playbook. What is a SHEMAKER? A SHEMAKER is anyone who is talented and skilled, but also helps women succeed and champion women's rights. Let's meet tonight's SHEMAKER coach. Paula Buckhaulter uses her vast sports experience to provide strategic planning and event marketing for diverse organizations and businesses, including Detroit area African American Veterans Appreciation Dinner, Sports Legends of Cleveland Benefit, and the Metro Detroit Convention and Visitors Bureau as the CEO of her company, PBJ Consulting and Events. She was the Assistant Director for Championships Engagement with the National Collegiate Athletic Association, known to all of you as the NCAA, where she managed event marketing for select championships to promote ancillary events and enhance overall fan experience. She also oversaw the NCAA Youth Tournaments and Events, an initiative that introduces youth to NCAA championships through opportunities to compete, attend the championship, and be recognized on a national stage. Paula's intercollegiate athletics career began as a track and field student athlete at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. Her professional career started in sports marketing, promotions, and events in the athletic department at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, before accepting a position as Assistant Athletic Director for Marketing and Promotions at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. She later worked with the Detroit Lions of the NFL in promotions and sponsorship fulfillment. Paula is a native of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and has undergraduate degrees, in telecommunications and criminal justice from Indiana University, and a graduate degree in communications from Norfolk State University in Norfolk, Virginia. Passionate about community activism and volunteering, she serves on the leadership team with Raising Queens, an organization that offers programs to empower women and girls to find their purpose. She is single and enjoys spending time with family and friends, reading, working out, volunteering, mentoring, shopping, consulting, planning events, and traveling. Paula is not only a SHEMAKER coach this evening, she is a dear friend of mine. I actually met Paula while I was working at the Detroit Lions. She was at the NCAA, and we partnered together on the 2009 Men's Final Four. In preparation for the 2009 Final Four, we also worked together on the Elite 8 and Sweet 16 in 2008. Last year, at the beginning of the pandemic, Paula brought together women in sports for a monthly Zoom call. The reason was to help us all just talk and get through something no one had experienced. That Zoom call grew to what's now an organization. I'll let her explain more of it to you. But over the last year, I have enjoyed connecting with women. We have supported each other candidly, learned, and have been able to cry and help each other get over some hurdles. We know it's been a tough year for everyone, and Paula certainly did a great job of creating a really safe space for all of us to talk, support each other, and get through. So tonight, ladies, please welcome our SHEMAKER coach, Paula Buckhaulter. Good evening, Paula. Welcome to SHEMAKERS Live.
Hi, Shavana. Thank you so much and congratulations on your first 10 episodes. This is really cool.
Well, thank you so much. I am really excited to have you here. I appreciate all of your support, and I'm ready to have others learn from you because I certainly have learned a lot from you over the years, from your grace and attention to detail and also your passion for people. So thank you again for being supportive of this work and joining us tonight.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I know we had some scheduling issues because you booked up really fast. So I'm just glad that you were able to squeeze me in here.
Yes, thank you for putting that out there, Paula. See, if you want to be on SHEMAKERS, you got to be ready.
You got to be ready.
Well, let's go back to Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Can you share with us what your childhood was like and what led you to matriculate at Indiana University when there were a couple of great Big Ten schools not too far from your home?
Right. It's funny that you're talking about being raised here in Bloomfield as I'm coming to you live from my mom's Bloomfield Hills living room. So greetings from the hills. Nice. To be clear, I'm going to go back just a little bit. My mom and dad, not unlike a lot of folks probably watching, came to Michigan from Mississippi. They had both gone to Jackson State, came to Michigan for just better opportunities. They had both majored in education, so they were teachers with the Pontiac School District. And we lived in Pontiac for a while until we moved out here to Bloomfield, again, for just some better opportunities. My sister and I had gone to some parochial schools, but we really loved sports, and they didn't have sports for girls at those schools. So came out here, ended up going to Auburn Hills, Avondale, literally up the street, and running track and just having some great success in track and field way back then. And just, as I started thinking about where do I want to go to school and do I want to run collegiately, Indiana was one of the schools that reached out to me, as did a few other schools. But what attracted me most about Indiana was that I didn't know anybody there. Like, I feel like here in Michigan, everybody goes to Michigan, Michigan State, Central, Eastern, Western, Oakland, Wayne State, a ton of really great schools, but I felt like it was going to be like the 13th grade. So I really did. I had like wanderlust even back then. Like it excited me to go somewhere where I didn't know anybody, that there were 33, I think, 1,000 students on that campus at the time when I went, and certainly a small African-American population, but I was excited about the opportunity to just do something new.
So you were ready to chart a new course.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you enjoy your college experience?
I loved it. I loved it. As a product of the Big Ten, what a great just opportunity that is. And I know that those types of schools are not, they don't work for everybody, but they certainly did work for me. And I knew that I wanted to study some things that weren't really traditional types of degrees back then. So there wasn't a sports management degree, but there was telecommunications. And at that time I thought, well, I want to work in sports. Maybe it's in front of the camera. Maybe it's broadcasting. Got a chance to do an internship with a CBS affiliate in Detroit at the time, and realized firsthand the amount of time that women spend in hair and makeup, and that honestly, the longevity of a career for a woman in broadcasting, like once the skin starts sagging and weight starts piling on, like that does happen, women typically won't be seen anymore, and the men will continue to have their jobs. And that just didn't feel right for me, but it was a great experience. I didn't run. I think I ran for about a year and a half. That was eye-opening, running next to people who I'd seen on TV running in Olympic trials. Like, it wasn't that serious for me. I just happened to be good. And, but thinking that I was going to devote my whole life to do something like that just wasn't for me, but I was glad to have that start.
How did you manage your studies as well as your athletic obligations as a student athlete?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's difficult. And for anyone, considering participating in sports, especially on a Division I level, anymore, honestly, almost on any level, maybe except for, maybe Division III, which is, more about the overall experience. Firsthand, Shavana, like sports, it's business now, even on the college level, which was not the case very long ago. So it's a year-round commitment. It's indoor track that goes into outdoor track. It's lifting weights. It's the travel. It's sacrificing your social life. And for me, somebody who knew that I would still have the opportunity to go to school, my mom and dad were going to provide for me to go to school, whether or not I had a scholarship. That took the pressure off to run to go to school. I went to school to go to school and to have that overall social experience, academic experience. This is a small, lesser known fact that Tavis Smiley and I were on Black Student Union together. He was the president and I was the vice president during a stretch of time there. I never would have had those opportunities had I stayed with track.
Yes, it is like one of the cons of being a student athlete. Some of my friends who were student athletes at Michigan have expressed the same thing. In fact, a couple of my friends who played football, their first time going to a football game, of course, was as an alum.
Yeah.
And they were floored about the experience. Like, this is so much fun. And it didn't hit me until then. Like, oh, right. Yeah, I've never done this before.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So you also had a concentration in criminal justice. What were you planning on doing with that area of expertise?
So as I was sharing a little bit earlier, because there wasn't a degree at that time in sports management, and to be fair, even had there been, I doubt that I would have pursued it, because at that time, while I loved sports, I was being very honest with myself about the fact that I don't know what opportunities are going to exist for Black women in sports. At the time that I was in school, I didn't know of any women in any front offices. I didn't even really know front offices existed. So I think for me, having a backup plan, which is something I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about later, pivoting and having, just being very aware of all the different gifts that you have and how you can use them. I have an aunt who I adore and I love, and she worked with the FBI on behalf of the Postal Service. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So had sports not worked out for me, my dream was to pursue a career perhaps in the FBI. So criminal justice was, when I knew that I was going to go to school, I think I was there 5 years, even though one semester I only had one class because I loved it so much. I was like, might as well get another undergraduate degree. So that's how that came about. And I will tell you, a lot of criminal justice is sociology based. And it has been helpful in every job that I have had to have that kind of a background.
And what do you find valuable about having that in your background?
I worked with a lot of criminals who did a lot of bad stuff. So I was able to be like, oh, I see where this is going. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. Like, yeah, you're able to pick up on, how it is, Shavana, in this field. You work with so many different people. You work with, quite frankly, a lot of non-African American males. And there's a constant shifting. There's a lot of code switching. There's a lot of, how do I play this game? How do I work this play to win? And that's where sociology has helped me.
Yeah, it is, I think, important, both sociology and psychology, because it is about connecting with people and understanding behavior and what triggers certain behavior.
Yes.
With that said, how have you dealt with managing up, especially in environments where you're reporting to someone whose background is completely different from yours, from a gender standpoint, race standpoint, and socioeconomic?
Yeah, that has been, I don't know, how do I deal with it? That's the question. So let me try to work with that. it took me a couple of jobs and actually a couple of painful experiences to realize that if I want to work in a certain environment, if I want to succeed in a certain environment, that I was going to have to become really good at assessing situations like pretty fast, and especially in sports where it is pretty fast moving. It is a lot of good old boy, situations. So for me, just being able to get on the same page with my supervisor, like, what are your expectations of me? How do we spell success for us? And honestly, at the end of the day, delivering it. Those are the options. Deliver it and succeed. Don't deliver it and start looking for another job. It's that simple to me.
I think it's great, especially working in sports. Everyone can relate to one, winning, and understanding that you need a game plan to win. I think it's great advice to have that conversation, even if you have to initiate it. Every organization does not have, formal check-ins planned for associates to have with their direct supervisor, but initiating that conversation so the expectations are clear will help you, using a sports analogy, score. I mean, if you think about football, basketball, any other sport, if LeBron James doesn't know what it takes to score, how can he be effective?
That's right.
And I see that's basically what you did. You established first the expectations, which is basically understanding the rules of the game.
That's right. And Shavana, you and I talked in preparation for today, and I think it's so important for folks to realize that we are our own CEOs of our lives, right? So you plan your life, you plan your vacations, you plan when you're going to get your hair done, you plan when you're going to go home and on a trip. So why would we not employ that same philosophy in our work? Like, that's not necessarily, like, I'm not giving that power to my supervisor. Like, I'm owning that. Now, I haven't always thought like that. And like I said, it took me some different situations to get to that place, but I own my success. Nobody takes that from me. And I wish that more people, and I think that's probably some of my mission is letting, especially women, know that that's on us. That's on us.
And how did you present your personal and professional goals to your supervisor? Or is that part of the conversation?
Yeah, I think what I started doing, and I want to start off like how I want to be fair in letting you know how this started. So we had a vice president once who said, in terms of performance reviews, you should never be surprised in a performance review. Like, anything that is written on that piece of paper or whatever, you should have had some knowledge that it was coming. And I had a situation with a supervisor in that group where I was caught off guard by a review. Something similar to, sometimes I'm not really quite sure what you're working on, or, you seem to really kind of just do your own thing. And I'm like, is that bad? Like, where in the handbook is that like a ding? But to our conversation earlier, if it's a ding for him, then I now have to find a way to manage that, right? Because I don't want a bad review, because a bad review at the place that I was at that time impacted my money. And I want everything that's due me. So what I started doing was scheduling one-on-ones. We would meet either weekly or twice weekly, as we had been doing all along, where we would verbally talk about what was going on. But I said, I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to draw up a document. And at the top of that document, I'm going to write the goals for our group, Paula's goals, and then our subgroup within the championships department had goals. So that is forever, always going to be on this paper. And whenever I go into a one-on-one with him, somehow I'm going to incorporate these goals into our conversation, whether it's collaboration, communication, inclusion. There were a couple of those goals, and I intentionally incorporated those things. And I would walk up to things, Shavana, maybe challenges that I was having. So I might say, "Hey, Bob, I've been having this kind of a challenge with this situation, this person. How would you advise that I solve that? Because I feel like that could be something that could prevent our group's success and your success and my success." And, take whatever advice that was given, document it, and then, kind of follow back up on that. That's just one of the examples. The bigger piece here was that paper allowed me to have documentation of the fact that I was communicating, that I was inclusive, that I was collaborating, that there were no surprises. If I was going to take vacation, even though it was in a whole system that we had to log vacation, on that piece of paper, I would say, next month I'm going back to Michigan to say hi to my mom, right? Oh yeah, I know that. And consequently, the year-end performance reviews became there were no surprises after that. Let me just say that. And the good thing is too, Shavana, they can be stressful because our group, we had to write a self-evaluation, and that's always just weird, trying to remember all that stuff and not wanting to sound like you're tooting your own horn and all that. But those documents gave me reference in which to pull information for my self-evaluation. So it wasn't that hard to remember, hey, I attended this diversity supplier program on such and such a day. I was asked to be a guest speaker by that group. I attended that professional development opportunity. I solved this problem. And, there was legitimate documentation of having done those things.
It sounds like the documentation served as a visual reference, which was the game changer, because you were communicating the same information, but now there was something tangible that you could go back to and share your accomplishments.
Yeah, that old phrase like CYA.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it was. That's what it was. Because I was not going to sit through another review where I didn't have documentation and where I was caught off guard. That part I could own. There's a lot of things maybe I can't own or I don't have power over, but not that.
How did you manage the emotion behind being blindsided in your performance review?
Probably not well the first time. Well, there was really only one time, so probably not well then. But Shavana, we wear different faces, and as African American women, I mean that's what we do. And so what I'm reminded of is that that my seat at the table is not just for me, but it's for my grandmothers who were domestics. It was for a mom and a dad who sacrificed by leaving their homes to come here to give my sister and I a better opportunity. It's for a whole lot of Black and brown little girls in the future. Hopefully that'll have it much easier than I did. And so when I feel like I'm starting to, maybe not operate in grace or the grace that I want to, I'm reminded of those folks, and I want to honor them, and I want to honor myself.
What tips do you have to encourage people to remain objective in that self-evaluation in performance reviews or even on social media? As we receive comments and read what other people say about us, oftentimes we can take it all very personal. But to grow, I have found we have to be objective even about ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good question, Shavana. And that's, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of having a village. So there's two schools of thoughts on this. One is that you have a village of people, and they're not just people who think like you and look like you, or your sorority sisters, or your girls that you grew up with that were on the track team with you. it is a village of people, some who don't think like you, some who don't look like you, some who may not be the same gender, the same faith, but that they can help you. I mean, at the end of the day, that they are Team Shavana or Team Paula, right? So that's one piece of it. And having these types of conversations like you and I are doing right here on this podcast, like you and I do on the Sisters in Sports calls, like you do with your girlfriends and other people that are in your circle. Like, hey, I had something come up at work the other day and I'm just not feeling that cool about it. Can I share with that experience with you? And will you give me some feedback on how I behaved or how I responded and how I can correct it if it needs correcting? And then my job is to objectively share that story with them. And at the same time, be open to receiving what they give me. Now, I may choose to not go with it. But at the end of the day, what I want to do is I want to be better and I want to grow. And I know that these folks in my village are Team Paula. So they're not going to say anything that's going to hurt me. But it's humbling too. So the village is one part, but to know thyself is another part. And so when you're reading comments or you're sitting across from somebody in a review, there's one part about being open and owning the things that you know you can improve on or that you messed up flat out. But there's another part that's like, oh, no, that ain't me. Oh, no, I do not claim that. No, sir. I will need this to be rewritten and that part taken out. And here's why, because I got my documentation that didn't happen.
Oh, yes. It's like your aunt saying, your grandmother, I'm not receiving that. That is not the Lord.
I rebuke you. I rebuke you, bad review.
Well, Paula, in addition to having your tangible game plan and reviewing that more often with your supervisor than just the annual performance review, you also spoke to other people in the organization, really creating a team. Can you share a little bit about your strategy in identifying people to talk to about your personal and professional goals?
Sure. Is that when I referred to the village, Shavana? Is that what you mean?
Refer to the village, but also strictly in an organization, not only depending on your direct supervisor as someone to talk to about your goals, basically finding others to learn from and to advocate for you.
Ooh,
I just think it's important to get outside of your specific department.
Right.
When you're at an organization, it's really easy to only connect with the people who are directly on your team. But when you go outside and build a network in the company and not just on your team, you learn about other opportunities within the organization and can grow. I'm glad you brought that up. That's really important. It's important for a whole lot of reasons. It's important from a village perspective. It's important to be in the know about things that are happening that maybe your department or your supervisor or your folks don't feel like you need to know about. And I don't know, I just always feel like I'm better when I have relationships with other people, like when I just have relationships. So I'm intentional when I'm in organizations about seeking out those relationships. And it could be something as simple as I'm in a meeting and I see how somebody reacted to something in a meeting. And I'm like, I don't know if I would have done that, but I kind of like that. It can be something as simple as I like that person's style. I like how they pull themselves together, their personal brand. That person went to an HBCU like I did. I want to connect with them that way. So, and consequently, what happens is that you grow because you know people, you build a better village, you get information sometimes that you might not have gotten, like I said a little earlier. And then, honestly, you learn things. I don't know anything about social digital stuff outside of my own little IG and Facebook stuff.
But there was a sister at my most recent organization who was hired specifically to do social and digital media. And she taught me so much about how you can use your social media accounts personally and professionally, when you might want to keep them separate, when you might want to, if you ever branched out to do your own kind of thing, when you might want to hire somebody to manage those accounts for you, because there are people with that expertise and skill set that can do that far better than you can. And that only came about because I had never met a sister that was in social and digital strategies before.
Very important.
Yeah.
Going back to I call it professional development, mapping, the game plan that you put together to have conversations about your work. What are some essential, steps that people should take in mapping out that plan?
When you're talking about mapping out a plan, for your own professional development, I think it's really important to be very honest about what your goals are in a position and within an organization. So I knew my most recent organization, the NCAA, I did not feel like it was going to be the last stop for me. I did feel like I was going to put in quite a bit of time there, but I didn't know it was going to be 18 years, but that was cool. But I think what I knew that I needed was to be somewhere like that. I had done on-campus stuff. I had done pro stuff. I had done some things with some not-for-profits, with convention and visitors bureaus and sports commissions. But as I looked at my whole body of work, I was missing something like that, kind of like a corporation that's a not-for-profit, even though it is a for-profit. And so I needed to go somewhere that had structures, that was made up of committees, that had some of the budgets like that place had, that put on some of the biggest events that I had ever touched and attended in my life, to see how corporate partnerships intersected with how we wanted to present different things, like to see the part of student athletes and the role that they played, and how their name, image, and likeness evolved and became, as I was walking out of the door, probably a watershed moment for the NCAA as they move forward. So I think, again, it goes back to being very clear about I know what they want from me. What do I want from this? And how am I going to get it? Is it having relationships with people over in those offices? Is it taking advantage of some of the travel that's afforded to me? Is it making sure that even though it says professional development is a zero-based budget, that I'm going to hold my supervisor accountable for making sure that I get professional development opportunities? Or even if I have to create them for myself, I know enough people that I can job shadow, or I can call somebody, or I'll pay my way to go somewhere and work on an event to get that skill that I need. I think it's honestly, at the end of the day, again, just taking ownership over your situation, Shavana.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point. I think we get lost, especially when we are really excited about an opportunity, and we really focus on what we can do for that organization. Mm-hmm. So we get the opportunity, and outside of the compensation, and sometimes, especially in our industry, because of the cachet and sexiness surrounding it,
yep,
people put a lot of focus even on that. However, yep. There is more than just that financial compensation. Uh-huh. So I agree with you. We definitely have to look at what can we truly get from this experience, because it's two business people having a conversation and making a decision to work together. It's not just you lobbying to get an opportunity.
That's right. That's right. And I have always been, especially as I've come to this part of my career, the thought that people can go in a room and make a decision about me and what they think my capabilities are, or where, well, Paula would be good with that, but no, not over there, because for whatever reason, like that, So as I look for opportunities going forward, and this started even several years ago, Shavana, and you and I both went through something I think that brought us more to this place was, I don't care about how sparkly something is. And while the money is good, there's a place for that too. I want to do work that matters with people that I care about in a place that I would love to live. Those are my things now.
Yes. Important. You mentioned surprising yourself being at the NCAA for 18 years. What was it about the organization and the work that kept you there? How did you stay fresh and relevant? What kept you excited?
Sure. When I went there, and I'm gonna be very upfront with you. What I needed was to start building up some retirement, because I had worked at some really cool places, but I had stayed at those places 2 years at this place, and I think 4 years before the NCAA was the longest I had stayed somewhere. And then I hopped over to that thing, and I remember my dad saying, like, "Hey, you gotta like stay somewhere." And I just said, like, "Dad, in this field, as an African-American woman who, was single and didn't have kids then, nor now, like I have to be ready to go to the next thing when it's offered, because I don't know that I'm going to get that opportunity again." So what the NCAA presented was an opportunity to be vested in 5 years. And they had a great matching program with the 401k program, but it was a lot of stuff. It was, we're coming out of March Madness and Final Fours. It was like travel. Here's your corporate card. You pick your flight, you get your rental car, you stay at whatever hotel you want. And while you're there, we don't care that you visit your family and do whatever else you want, as long as it's, doesn't increase what you should have paid for this particular trip. It was the chance to work with some of the most brilliant, I will say this flat out, that there are all type A grinders in that organization. Like, you come to meetings like ready, because everybody is just ready. And I think the chance to do some different things. So over my time there, I worked in championships, and then I put together some youth tournaments after a while. And then I sat on some really cool committees shaping kind of the future of the NCAA. So it was never, I know it sounds like a long time, and it was a long time for me, but no day ever was the same. This year I worked on men's ice hockey championship. Next year I worked on men's Final Four, then women's Final Four, then women's College World Series, and then wrestling, then a Make-A-Wish Foundation project, and then a diversity and inclusion group that we're going to start. So it was never the same. It was never boring. I'll say that.
Well, that will definitely keep you someplace. What are you excited about now, Paula?
Oh, Siobhan, I'm excited to be on the SHEMAKERS podcast right now. No, I really am. I like, since this COVID thing started, for me, like a lot of folks, it was a time in my life that I had never had to just be still and to really think about, like, okay, Paula, you are getting to a place in your life where you got, a shorter end on this side than you do behind you. So what, as the CEO of my life, what do I want this next chapter to be? So like when COVID first started, like I didn't know if I was going to live through it. And so thoughts came to me, like, if this is truly the end, like if I'm in this house, not able to see my family and doing some serious reflection, is this what I want my life to have been? Like, is this all there was? And that began some conversations I had with my village, and honestly, some conversations that I had always had with myself about, you're better than this job that you're doing right now. Like, you've gotten comfortable and you could just ride this thing on out into the sunset, and that would be really cool. Or you can strike out and do something that scares you a little bit, but that's good scary. Like, it's good trouble, and bet on Black. You can bet on yourself. And that's what happened for me, Shavonna. So when you talk about what's exciting, the NCAA, as you probably are not surprised by not having the 2020 men's Final Four, that is responsible for about 80% of the NCAA's operating budget, like 80%. So when that went away, we were in trouble. And so it did not take me long to assess, like, you know, being from Michigan and seeing when the automobile industry gets in trouble and stuff like that, everybody ain't going to be able to keep working here. And so, not surprisingly, they came out with an opportunity for, what do you call it? Voluntary separations. And they were offered to anybody who had over 8 years. And they offered a year of full salary based on how many years you had worked, medical benefits for a year. What else? Bought out all your vacation. I was like, when they, I was like, I know you haven't even rolled out the whole entire package yet, but I'm in. And that was that was the most exciting and kind of scary thing that I've done. But I'm super excited about things that are opening up for myself. And for anybody who listens to this podcast, you know that there's a small voice inside of you that tells you different things, right? Now, sometimes there's a good voice and a not so good voice, but this good voice is like, girl, you know you're cheating. Like, you better than everybody in this meeting room. Yet you continue to just sit here and listen to these people. Before it's too late, why don't you rethink this? Why don't you step out there? Because here's what I think. I think you're going to be very, very good. And I think you're going to be excited for the first time in a long time. And that's what it's happened for me.
So have you developed a different game plan versus what you had when you were inside of another organization?
Yeah, I work differently, Shavonna. I'll be candid and sharing with you. So I am putting together paperwork right now for my own business, where I'll be CEO of PBJ Consulting and Events, and it's my goal to provide just custom services for folks and clients who need help specifically in the areas of events and branding, crisis management, any solutions driven issue that they have. And it's so easy. And they're like paying me. And I'm like, and so when you ask, like, is there different? You know, it's different because there's a little bit more hustle involved because it's like just me and it's just my name. But it's really cool. Like it's really cool.
What frustrates you?
When my mom sets the alarm when I'm in the middle of this podcast. What frustrates me, like rudeness. There's this phrase that goes around. My sister and I talk about this all the time. There is none so blind as he or she who will not see, or he or she that will not hear. That frustrates me. A lot of what we're seeing happening in our world right now, just the inhumanity, just the mean-spiritedness, just the ugliness, that frustrates me.
Well, I know that you are a voracious reader. What is, I'm going to ask actually for two books that everyone must read. One about professional development, and then the second one just for life.
Yeah, that's good. I love to read, and I really thought during this pandemic I'm going to be like reading all the time. But you know what I'm doing all the time is looking at a lot of Netflix all the time and working on various projects and all that. But I jotted down a few books because I knew that if I was called on this, it wouldn't come to mind quickly. I'm in a couple of book clubs, and we read a lot of fiction. These ladies, they ain't going with nothing other than Black authored fiction. So some books that really touched me recently were two of them. One was called Behold the Dreamers. I don't know if you're familiar with that, by Mbolo Mbui. And another one was An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. And for the longest time, I got to tell you, my favorite author is, oh gosh, what is her name? See, this is why I have to write it all down. Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. But I just love books that expose me. I'm not married. So An American Marriage was a book that took me inside of a marriage and what would happen if this person that you thought you knew got in trouble. And you had to make a decision about, am I going to ride with this person still? Or this is some bad trouble that could impact our whole little thing. So those kinds of things really, I don't know, I just like them. The Behold the Dreamers was a book by an African author that talked about a couple that came from Africa to America for better opportunities, but then had to make decisions about, should I sell my soul for the American dream or hold true to some of those African values that they were raised with? So again, other insightful books. Colson Whitehead and the Underground Railroad was one that was a big deal for me. And I got to be honest, I don't read a lot of self-help books, Shavana, or like professional development books, because I start off reading them and then I'm like, this is kind of hokey. This is obvious stuff. Or like, I could have written this. But one that I'm getting ready to buy is by Lovey Ajayi Jones, called Professional Troublemaker. And I don't know if it's professional development, but she interviews a lot of African-American women in various fields and gets their stories about how they have overcome different challenges and have achieved success.
Or any sources for professional development within a discipline. So do you have sources that you refer to often to stay on top of trends and marketing, event promotions?
Yeah. Yep. That's good. Thank you. I love Sports Business Journal. I glance at that when I get a chance. There's a couple of things online with like on Instagram that I follow. There's a lot of like, just like basketball, you know, and I'm not, of course, I'm so bad. Like, I'm not thinking of the names of these right now. But like, what is the one, you'll know it, Shavana, like the basketball players and football players contribute to this. Like,
Players Tribune.
Yes. Players Tribune. I love that. I'll flip through ESPN every now and then, but honestly, like I talk to a lot of people. I have conversations with folks. I love 60 Minutes. I love CBS Sunday Morning. I'm like one of those like just holistic lifelong learners. So I don't want to be tied to any one thing for any source for anything. I want to listen to different podcasts from different people. I want to listen to some of the guests that you bring on to your podcast. And I want to listen to my village, and then that's enough. Then I want to work out, and then I want to eat, and then I want to go shopping, and then I want to travel. So there's only so much time for all that stuff. So I think whatever works for people, that's what works for me.
What's the most interesting thing you've learned this year? We'll limit it to 2021.
To 2021. That I could be a 50-plus-year-old woman that could sell her house and sell her furniture and put all her worldly possessions in storage in a state that she lived in, to move into her mom's house with her mom's furniture, to be free, to find myself, and to face things that I thought would scare me, to only find out that there are things that have made me much stronger than I thought that I was.
Liberated, huh?
Girl, I am free, child. I got me some locks. I ain't never had any hair like this before. I got tattoos.
Uh-oh.
I always had those, but I'm getting some more. Yeah, when you're faced with like, I don't know, maybe COVID, there's a lot of people who aren't making it. There's a lot of people who are facing scary things. And like, how do I want, as the CEO of my life, how do I want to create this next chapter for myself?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Well, we are almost on time. I can't believe it, but I knew that I would feel like this as we approach time. So I'm going to take some questions now. The first one was sent via email, and it is, how has event marketing changed?
That's a very good question. And I guess depending on the field that you're in, like the experiences that you provide for either your fans or your clients or whoever that demographic or target group is like everything sometimes in your organization, that you might have one shot to create a really nice experience for some folks. And you better put everything you can into it, because there are so many other opportunities that folks have nowadays that you better make it good. And I feel like the stakes have just gotten higher with that. Like, what concert are we going to have? What giveaway? What thing on the field? What, technology? What, it's so much, and sometimes it's too much. That's how I think it's changed. That sometimes it's just, I don't know, it's just not even that much fun to plan. Or sometimes I think even for our fans, it's just like, it's too much. Like, I just wanted to watch this game. Like, what's on that screen? And why are you bugging me on my phone? And why can't I just go get a plain hot dog and not have to like go through all these things?
Yes. The avids are feeling like that.
Yeah. You know a little bit about that, Shavana.
Yes, I do. I'm going to go to YouTube for this next question. You are very intentional with relationship building. What advice would you have for someone who is not comfortable reaching outside of their comfort zone?
That's a good one. Thanks. I think Martha submitted that. Martha, I think, as I was saying earlier, what do you want for yourself? So if you have a goal that's here, and this space in here is like your discomfort, and you're here, like, sis, you gotta like weave through that discomfort. Now, what it looks like for me and what it looks like for you might be different, and that's cool. But like, I'm blown away by how many folks will just talk to you if you just reach out to them. People love to talk about themselves. Like, I can't believe that I've already been on here for like about an hour just yakking on, and I didn't have any preconceived questions or anything. So find your way that works for Martha to reach out to people. And maybe it's virtually, maybe it's via LinkedIn, maybe it's writing a note to somebody, whatever that thing is. If this is where you want to be, become okay in that discomfort while you still stay authentic to Martha.
Authenticity is definitely key in anything.
Yeah, I'm big on that.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation about knowing thyself.
Know thy freaking self.
We're going to add that to it.
That's how I say it. That's probably not how the grandmother said it, but yeah, that's how I say it.
Well, before I let you go, you've seen the show, so you have to complete some sentences for me.
Oh boy.
Are you ready?
Do I have a choice?
Not really.
Okay.
I like to appear gracious. I do love you.
I love it. I love it.
So the first statement is, I knew I was the bomb when I accomplished this.
I knew I was the bomb when I got my first internship, and that was with the Detroit Lions, who didn't have an internship program. And I just visited them one holiday because my dad was a season ticket holder to see if somebody would sit down and talk with me about jobs in the front office. And I sent them a resume later as a thank you. I had no interest in coming back to Michigan after being away for college. And they said, we have never had an internship program. We didn't know you had all this on your resume. I'd done some other internships. We would like for you to, we invite you to consider accepting a one-year internship with our first ever intern program. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next statement. My high school track and field coach is saying this about me.
That Paula is something else. And he does say that because we still stay in touch. So I think he's very proud. He had, again, I went to Avondale, predominantly white. I think my sister and I and a few other folks and friends, some might even be on here, were on our track team. And I think he just was curious. He just like, what are these girls like? What are they about? Like, they're very proper and they went to parochial school and they don't act like some of these other kids. And I think that's what he'd say. I think he's very proud and constantly surprised.
And the final one is, this song always picks me up no matter what I'm facing.
All right. I thought about this because I figured you'd slip this one in. So this one is Bad Boys for Life by P. Diddy. There is something, the remix that has like, I think it's a couple other folks that are on that. It's just something about like, it's just so like, I can't sing, so I'm not going to sing it, but I just love like the attitude. I love the beat. The video was dope. I mean, it's an old song and I love music. There's a whole bunch of songs I could have picked, but every time I hear that song, I'm like, we ain't going nowhere.
Yes.
Bad boys for life. Bad girls for life. Bad people.
Yes, that is a good one. You just took me back. Late 90s, early 2000s. Those were the best times.
Yes.
We ain't going nowhere. Yeah. You know, Diddy, he was always, I thought I told you we won't stop. I told you that we won't stop.
I love the confidence and the swag. I just love us. So yeah, that's my song right there.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Paula. It was so nice to see you. I'm so grateful for technology. We have our Zoom calls. We're able to, share on this platform and from other women, which I'm just so happy about. It's one thing for us to support each other and have this village, but I feel like so blessed that we're really able to open up our village now.
Yeah, Shavonda, this has been, when you talk about what this 2020, 2021 has brought, like it's forced us to shift and pivot and just think about doing things that scare us, like this technology thing, like that we had to do in order to stay in touch. And honestly, the time to reach out to people, to connect with dear friends like you, who's just doing some great things down in Atlanta on a whole bunch of different levels. Like, you inspire us. You are connecting women in this space. And I appreciate you. I'm so thankful that you saw fit to let me be a part of this. I'm just very excited.
Yes, likewise. Well, we will have you back.
I'll be ready.
You've been CEO of PBJ Consulting and Events for decades.
Yeah, I have. I'm just starting to get some money from it now, though.
Right. It will be a formal LLC or corporation. So definitely once you do that, we'll have to come back and celebrate that and toast all of your clients.
Yes, I appreciate that. I thank you for your support. What you're doing, honestly, you have no idea. It just inspires me. Like, Shavonda's doing something. You had been talking about this for a while, right? Yeah. And you did it. And sometimes it's just do it. Like Nike, just do it, girl. Just do it and learn, keep growing, get back up. And honestly, that has been just the best thing for me. You've worked with me, so you know how much of a perfectionist I can be. Yeah. Some of the environments we've been in, I laughed to myself when you talked about the caliber of people at the NCAA. And I reflected back to leading PR for Final Four. It's like, woo, that press release is going to come back with a lot of red, no matter what. But I really enjoyed it. It's that saying of iron sharpening iron. That's right.
That's certainly really good. And we definitely have it in our sistership
Yes.
and within the group of ladies you have brought together. So more good stuff to come.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with me and sharing with SHEMAKERS audience.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Shavonna, and continued success to you. And let me know however I can help.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Well, ladies, another episode done. Did you all enjoy Paula? Oh my gosh, isn't she just excellent and really dropped some good gems? You are the CEO of your life, which is a business. What goals do you have for yourself? What do you want your future to look like? We'll be talking about that more this month. In April, it's all about planning for your life, business, and family. We have next week the Director of People and Culture for the Atlanta Hawks. The following week, we will have a career coach, Jahan Blake. And the last week, we actually have a medical doctor who is a specialist in reproductive endocrinology. So she is going to talk about family planning, which is really important for women. There are so many opportunities now for us to plan our families in unconventional ways. So lady, as I said, you all are important to me, and SHEMAKERS is not just about your business. It is about your life. I am really working to help you develop your winning game plan in business and life. So we'll take a quick look at who our guest is next week. It is Joyette Jones-Gaudet, who I mentioned is the Director of People and Culture at the Atlanta Hawks. Joyette has spent 20 years in human resources, not only in sports, but also in hospitality, working for large global brands such as the W Hotel. Get your questions ready around career planning, interviewing, networking, and job searching. As I say each week, Hills and Helmets is wherever you are. So please connect with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at Hills and Helmets. If you're enjoying this show, send us an email, comment, connect with us, and let us know what you've enjoyed so far and what you'd like to see us talk about on this show. Again, it's to help you. And to do so, I need to know exactly what you're facing, what you're thinking about, and the hurdles you are trying to accomplish. That's it for this Wednesday. Until next Wednesday, remember, you are a SHEMAKER, and I am here to help you unleash your power, develop your game plan, make big plays, and win. Have a great night, and thank you for watching.